In the previous video, I went over how we need to update this manager variable whenever someone makes a lottery contract. So inside this constructor function, we're going to somehow want to figure out who just tried to create this new contract and assigning the address of their account to the manager variable. In order to do so, we're going to use a global variable that is included anytime we invoke a function in a Solidity contract. The following diagram that I'm going to show you is going to help us understand what a global variable is. Let's see, make sure I have it. I can throw that out. I did have it. Oh, it was opened earlier. Give me 1 second here. I believe it's this one. No. All right. So I'll just talk you through it. I can't find that diagram. So anytime that we want to invoke a function, or in this case, create a new instance of a contract, we have an account. And we create a transaction and we send it to the network, and that's what creates our contract instance. The global variable that we're going to be using is referred to as object, or MSG for short. This object has some properties on it that describe both who just sent in a transaction to the network, and it also describes some details about the transaction itself. This MSG object is available not only when we create a new contract, but also with any function invocation. So if I were to call a function, we still have access to the MSG object. It is a global variable that is used to describe who sent in a function invocation. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the properties included in the MSG object, and that I do believe I have here. We don't need this. This is what we want to take a look at here. I'll expand it. All right. So here we have 4 different properties that are relevant for us. The first property is the data property, and this is present on any transaction. It includes the contract source code, and if we're trying to just invoke a function or send a transaction to a function, then this will contain some of the arguments that we're trying to send to that function. It also has a gas property, which is the amount of gas available to us to run some bit of code. We rarely make use of the gas property. We usually assume that with any function invocation, an appropriate amount of gas has been sent along. The next properties is the sender property. This is the address of the person or the account who just sent in the transaction or a call to the network. And finally, the value property. If a transaction is being sent in with some amount of ether attached to it, then the value property contains the amount of ether that has been sent in. This is important if we want to ensure the amount of money that someone has sent to our contract, and we will be making use of this value property later on in the contract itself. The property I care about right now is the MSG.sender, so the sender property, because it tells us the address of the person who's starting up the invocation. The MSG global variable is available when a transaction is sent in or when we do a call. So going back inside the code, so I want to ensure that anytime a new instance of lottery is created, we want to get the person's address and assign it to the manager variable. And we do that like so. So we have this manager variable. We're going to assign MSG and sender. Okay. Now, a global variable, such as manager, just means that we don't have to do any type of declaration for this. It is an object that is always available inside our function. No declaration necessary, magically made available to us. So manager variable, and we assign to it MSG.sender, and that ensures that whenever we create a contract, we get the sender's address assigned to it. And so we can do a quick test of this inside of Remix, which is what I'm in right now. So I can go over here to the Run tab. And then what I want to do, I want to ensure that I've selected JavaScript VM, okay? Because we want to use our local test network inside the browser instead of the RINC-B network. And then I'll click on the, should I have a create button here? There should be, but I'd be looking at a create button instead of deploy. Unless they change the UI for this, creation of lottery pending. Or am I looking, no? Am I looking here, manager? Well, there's the manager, we are gonna make use of that. Thought I'd be seeing create, I guess maybe deploy is the one. Let me take a look here. Yeah, so I guess this is now deploy instead of create. It used to be create. Now, if I click on the manager button, that retrieves the value that is assigned to the manager variable. So it gives me this address here, 0xCA35B, right? And so that should match up with the account that has been selected right here, which is 0xCA3 and so on. Okay, so our contract is now recording the address of the person initiating the contract. So we have access to the MSG object, not just in the constructor function, but we also have access to it in any function that runs inside of our contract. All right, so we will be referencing the MSG object several times throughout this contract in several different functions. And so with that in mind, let's start working on our next function. I'll see you in the next video.